Hello and welcome. It's time to hear what's on my mind on this episode of the Trisha's 2 Cents Podcast. I'm your host, Trisha. If you've ever worked in retail, you know a thing or two about inventory. You may have never worked in retail, but you definitely understand what it means to balance the books. You might have heard of that phrase. Some companies take inventory once a year, sometimes twice a year. Some even have it weekly. It's all up to the company and how they choose to run their business. The objective of inventory is to balance what the company has bought into their business versus what it has sold. The difference is either damaged, donated, or stolen. But the product always has to be accounted for. So everything that the company has brought has to be accounted for. There has to be a balance. So inventory can either make a company or it can break a company. Because if you have too many losses, you're not making any money. And so it'll cause a company to go out of business. Now, I've known people to get fired for trying to make up numbers to account for losses. And years ago, I've even been asked to fluff numbers to make the inventory appear to be better than it was. And to explain that, say if you're counting, someone wants you to add to that number. So, like I said, it can appear that you have something that you don't. But I'm a person of integrity. So that was a no for me. And I represent God in all that I do, work or otherwise. And I would never allow anyone to discredit my character or who I am by lying. So with that being said, not only do companies need to account for their inventory, but we as human beings and vessels of God need to take inventory from time to time. Taking inventory of our life is just another way of saying we need to do some checks and balances. Just like our checkbook, which I know a lot of people don't write checks anymore, but some businesses do. Me and my husband, we have a business and we still write checks. So you have to make sure what's going out and what's coming in balances. So if you write a check, you have to make sure that check goes through the bank, and then what the bank says you have and what you say you have add up. So, like I said, taking inventory of our life is just another way of saying we need to do some checks and balances. Does our talk line up with our walk? Can people take us at our word? Politicians and lawyers and even Christians are stereotyped for not doing what they promise. But what about us personally? Not Christians as a whole, or not your profession as a whole, but you as an individual. Are we speaking great words, but living totally contrary to what we so eloquently portray? No one wants to be a hypocrite. I know I don't. And I try real hard to be one who can be trusted with their words. There is nothing worse than knowing as soon as someone speaks, you know it's a lie. My father has always said, and I'm sure you've heard a lot of older people say it, your word is your bond. And even the Bible speaks of never vow to say something, never make a vow if you don't intend to keep it. And it's better not to make that vow than to make the vow and not keep it. So, we're not perfect. We're not even close. But we should always be striving to be better, even in our imperfections. And though we will never obtain perfection because we are flawed human beings, remember the only perfect person that walked this earth and will ever walk this earth is Jesus Christ. So we'll never obtain perfection, but we're always trying to be better every day. We talked about it last time, the one day at a time. You know, like I said, I don't make New Year's resolutions, daily challenges. And that's basically the same thing, taking inventory. But being flawed human beings and knowing that we'll never obtain perfection, none of that or none of it should stop us from taking inventory of our life. Whether it's once a year, it could be twice a year, monthly, bi-weekly, weekly, or even daily. But only you can decide when you should see if your life balances out. I personally prefer to do it daily because then, well, first, because I know I mess up daily. I've said it before. I have my devotions in the morning, and I am determined to have a great day where I am thinking positively. I'm going to have positive thoughts. I'm going to do everything in a God centered way. And lo and behold, a challenge will come up. Sometimes I pass, and sometimes I fail. So if I do a daily balance or take a daily inventory, I'll say, because that's what we're talking about, inventory. If I take a daily inventory of my life and I'll assess that day and see what I could have done differently. And then when I go out the next day and that challenge come up again, I will do my best to pass that test. And so if I take a daily inventory, hopefully and prayerfully, I can seize the moment and not make that same mistake again. And I hope that makes sense, what I'm trying to say, if we take daily inventory. But once again, that's up to you. It's a personal thing. I can't tell nobody else how to be better, or I can encourage someone to be better, but I can't tell them how to do it in a way that they know that they can grow, that they won't put so much pressure on themselves in growing. And you grow at your pace, not at my pace, not at your neighbor's pace, your co-worker's pace, but everyone grows at their own pace. So I encourage you, as I encourage myself, to take inventory so that we can be better each and every day. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Trisha's 2 Cents Podcast. Join me on the next episode as I give life lessons through my experience, my growth, and always from my heart. Make sure you subscribe on your favorite listening platform.